Welcome to another episode of the Biker PM. I'm your host, Anthony Pavelich. Today we have with us Rachit Khator. He's the founder and CEO of StackB.com. StackB is the next generation spreadsheet design for makers and creators to build their own apps. It combines the best of spreadsheets, databases, and APIs in a single flexible platform and empowers non-technical people to build their own tools for their lives and work. It's real-time, collaborative, and has the ability to connect columns to popular third-party services to pull information automatically. Before StackB, he spent 4 years in venture capital and product management for a large Fortune 500 in Michigan, where he led investments and worked with over 15 technology startups, and is part of a few successful multi-million-dollar exits. He holds dual master's degree, one in applied physics from NIT Surat, India, and the other in entrepreneurship from the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. He returned to India in 2018 to build StackB after years of struggle in dealing with multiple spreadsheets and applications. So let's get started. Hi, Rachit. Thank you for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Anthony. Thanks a lot for inviting me over.
So let's get started with just giving me a background about yourself and the company, and then we'll take it from there.
Absolutely. So Anthony, I'm the founder of StackBy.com. It's basically a combination of spreadsheets and databases, and it allows non-technical people to build their own tools the way they want. So essentially, what we have realized is since the last 40 years, a lot of people still heavily rely on spreadsheets.
That's so true. Very true.
Yeah. So project managers, product managers, marketing managers, they still heavily work on spreadsheets day in, day out. So we wanted to build a tool that is as simple to use as a spreadsheet, but it gives them a lot of flexibility to build their own software, with the help of databases and APIs. So we made it like a no-code platform, completely easy to use, just like Google Sheets, but can be completely customizable for your end needs. So yeah, we've been doing that for close to 3 years now.
So what brought this on? I mean, what gave you this idea? Because I agree. I mean, Excel, spreadsheets, databases are still used in so many instances that people don't even realize that that's the basic background of a software or of a program that they use.
Absolutely. So I think this is a great question. I think we were just discussing how, you've lived in Michigan and, I was working there. So in Michigan, I was working for a large Fortune 500 company called Magna. And it was primarily in the automotive space, but I was part of their R&D group. So my life was completely embroiled around spreadsheets. I would use spreadsheets to manage deal flows, to invest into startups, for project planning, for product roadmap, and so on. And we are trying to find a better software that would help us collaborate much easier, for all the unstructured workflows that we had. So, we realized after 3-4 years, working in corporate that we had like tons of files, Excel files over the internet, and it was so cumbersome to manage. And as I started looking at, what tools were out there, so I bumped across a lot of, CRM platforms, project management software, just to realize that most of these softwares, they don't give users the flexibility they need to create and customize the way they want. They almost always fit users into their own taxonomy. So I thought that, okay, this is a great problem that on one hand, there are all these spreadsheets, and on the other hand, there are a lot of these, vertical specific softwares that necessarily does not allow you to structure your data the way you want. So with that, initially the idea was to build a deal flow management software for investors, but then we pivoted into something like a spreadsheet database hybrid, which became like a platform, and then for non-technical people to build their own. So it was quite a journey. 2017 is when I started all of this. Yeah.
You said something that part of a conversation I have with most of my clients is because they're always trying to find out what is the best tool to use for project management.
Yeah.
And, you have to find something, and this is what I tell them, is you have to find something you'll use and something that you can grow with, but you're not going to find something that fits all of your needs because, like you said, companies build these things and try to fit you into their taxonomy. So a lot of companies build these project management tools that they use or they want to use for their systems, and then they try to sell them, but they're not ever going to have everything that somebody needs. You're not, so, I try to tell them you have to find what's going to fit most of your needs and be a little bit satisfied with that because you can't customize them a lot. I find this really fascinating for project management. How do you use this? Do you use this for your project management tools?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we've been using this for
I'm glad you said yes, because that would have been embarrassing. But
no.
So how do you use it for your projects? How do you customize it?
So basically, we have 3 teams right now. Primarily one is the product team, including engineering. The second is, of course, the marketing side of things. And, the third is, customer support. So, for developers, we use it as a bug issue tracker to manage our user feedback. We do a lot of user research as well. So we basically talk to, various users and, take interviews and amalgamate all of that information in a single database, so to say. Then we do a lot of NPS surveys So we have like a functionality for forms. So we essentially send out like stack by forms to our clients, and it automatically pulls in information right into our tables. So we do use, for like our engineering is completely dependent on stack by, really. For marketing, interestingly, we are an API first tool. So what that means is that we can connect services to, we can connect like stack by to third party services to automatically pull in information from those services. And that's where, our primarily USP lies, that people have been using API since last 10 years, but only developers know how to use it. Only people with technical skills know how to use it. So we built all these no-code API connectors. So for example, you can connect a column to a third-party API to automatically pull in information. So imagine, if you're a video marketer, who's managing your video production, or if you're a video marketing team, not only you can manage your video production, but at the same time connect column to, for example, a YouTube API to automatically pull in the statistics of your videos or statistics of your channels to see how they're performing in real time. So that end-to-end management, where you're not only managing, collaborating with your team, but you're also looking at reporting, in a same place, is what makes us, different. So our end-to-end marketing management essentially happens on Stackby. So we've integrated with close to around 35 plus, marketing APIs like Google Analytics, Search Console, YouTube, Ahrefs, for SEO, SERPstat and Hunter. So where you can pull in all the information from these, popular services.
I'm thinking of this from obviously from a project management standpoint. How do you track scheduling and resources and all that? Because a lot of tools, I have different tools that I use with different clients. Some of them you can do resource management. Some of them you can't. You can just assign who's responsible for it, but you can't really tell how much work you've given this person. One of them that we use, we can set up everything and it works great for her. It's a bookkeeping company, but you can't necessarily like manage your customers in it. So you can't incorporate the CRM. How do you set this up for project management and customer relationship management? And I ask that because a lot of the listeners are entrepreneurs, so they're small business owners, and having a one-stop shop to manage all of this information makes things a lot more efficient.
Absolutely. Yeah. So as Stackby, we essentially have all these different types of building blocks, right? So there's definitely like a spreadsheet interface. We have 25 different types of column types, from drop downs to attachments to due dates to APIs to interlinking between tables and so on. You can do a lookup from one table to another, aggregate information from one table to another. And then the other building blocks are essentially, views, right? Like you can not only see your data in a table format, but you can customize this into like a Kanban, for like a Trello kind of a project management, or, calendar, where you can see things in a schedule. You can, of course, do forms, and you can also convert this into a gallery. So you can see records, in a gallery as well. So we have all these different newer type of views and layouts coming, where you can also see things in a Gantt view. So we are currently working on it. It will be live very soon. The Gantt charts and everything. So with all these building blocks, you can easily, manage your resources, look at your schedules, see who's doing what at what point in time, and what's at highest priority. Plus, with all of this data, you can of course do filters, sorts, and create multiple views of the same data that you have. So imagine you have a master view, which everybody looks at, but then there are all these individual smaller views that are, essentially for each of those team members, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So, you can see that view, but the team members will be able to see those filtered, sorted views just for their use case, right? So, even like at a 360 degree, viewpoint, you'll be able to see that data. But at the same time, if you want to deep dive, into a single record, into a single team member, you would be able to easily do it through filters and, sort and all of that, functionality.
Do you feel overwhelmed, overstimulated, and overworked? There's so much you need to do, but you don't know what the best way to do it is? And you're not sure where all your time goes each week? Jump on over to my website, pavproconsulting.com. You can download my free PDF, The 5 Proven Strategies to Steal Back Lost Time and Money in Your Business. And while you're there, you can book a free process discovery session. pavproconsulting.com. Move forward with confidence, focus, and productivity. How does it work? I'm going to ask you some questions just
Sure.
because curiosity gets me one. I can geek out about stuff like this because it's what I do. How does it work like with integrations for marketing, like for emails and stuff like that? Can you integrate? Because I know one thing that I really like about one of the ones that I use for a client that we're considering implementing next year is a notification system. So like when a task, they're requiring something from a customer. So if, like I said, it's a bookkeeping company, so that the customers have to give her the time card so she can do payroll. So when a task is like coming up that they have to do payroll, it can send a notification to the customer saying, hey, you need to turn in your time card so they can do payroll for you.
So currently we manage integrations in two ways, right? So one is, of course, if you've heard about Zapier, so we are integrated with Zapier. So StackBuy can be connected to more than 2,000 plus apps that's out there. So along with Zapier, we are integrated with Integromat, with few other integration providers like If This Then That, Automate.io. So you can connect StackBuy and set up actions and triggers from these other platforms and bring data from StackBuy. So we have a lot of use cases around that as well. And the second is, of course, like all these no-code API connectors that we have natively built. So those connectors essentially would give you all the statistics, analytics, kind of information that not necessarily you would find it from a Zapier kind of a system. So these are the two ways that we are handling integrations. So of course you'd be able to manage workflows like that.
Because I think as an entrepreneur and as with small companies and even as a project manager, you can spend a lot of time doing follow-ups like that. And I think when you can automate it, it can save you so much more time to where you don't have to worry about it. It's like putting your business on autopilot so that you can go out and sell, you can go out and bring in and satisfy your clients, be in contact with them, and then let your system do everything else.
That's the idea. I mean, absolutely, you hit it right? Because we also work with a tons of small to medium businesses, startups, and entrepreneurs, and almost always they're short on time, right? Because they're doing so many things. So they want their processes to be on autopilot, and if tools allow them to do that, I think it just saves them a lot of time and they become more competitive with the business they're in, if their processes are on autopilot.
Yeah, and one of the things that I always like to look at is cost, and it's not an expensive platform to use. I think like your lowest platform is like $5 a month, which is to save yourself even an hour. What is an hour worth of your time as an entrepreneur? It's worth a hell of a lot more. Sorry, but more than $5 a month. So let's switch gears and just talk about how you decided to become a business owner. What made you decide you wanted to be an entrepreneur, that you didn't want to work for the man anymore? Because you were working for a large company. What made you take that leap?
So I think I've been an entrepreneur 10 years in the making. So since I was 18, when I started college, I was intrigued by entrepreneurship, right? Intrigued by the whole, advent of startups. So startups in India that time were very early, back in 2008, 2009, there were just handful of startups, coming out of India, who were looking at problems and who were trying to solve it through technology. Since then, I've been reading and participating in a lot of discussions. I was part of I started a student-run organization in my college that promoted entrepreneurship, promoted youth entrepreneurship across, different countries and so on. So we would like send people on exchanges, to different countries and, have a dialogue on entrepreneurship. Since then, I was very much into it, right? I did internships, participated, I worked with startups and so on. So interestingly, when I was applying, so I did my master's in applied physics, as my first degree. After that, I wanted to do something different. So there was only one program called Masters in Entrepreneurship from University of Michigan, and this was the only type of program in the United States. And it was such a hot program that people from all over the world applied for it. And only 25 people got selected, right? Like, to be part of the cohort. So I was the lucky one to be, to be selected, from India to be part of that program. Even in that program, we were taught entrepreneurship, right? Like, what is the process to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
So how do you identify problems? How do you come up to solutions, and how do you scale your efforts, from there? So one thing led to another. Even in the large company that I was working with, I was working with startups because we used to invest into, startups and entrepreneurs. So during my time, I interacted with more than 50 odd entrepreneurs, invested in 20 of them, through our company, and looked at, how they were, trying to change the world. So when the opportunity was right, I did not hesitate to quit my job, move back, travel, move back to India, to where I belonged, and started StackBuy.
I think I like one thing you just said is what I really like about people who are being an entrepreneur is when they're trying to make a difference. Entrepreneurs do things for a lot of different reasons. Some will do it just because they want to be independent. They just, in many different fields, but the ones that are really trying to be out there and making a difference in the world are the ones that I really have to admire because they're putting the betterment of society as their forefront, as what they want to do. Whether, like you, I mean, you're trying to help entrepreneurs, make it easier for them to run their business, make it easier for them to be able to make a difference in the world.
Yeah.
I interviewed a set of twins, a brother and a sister, that their whole business is helping businesses make a good social impact. And those are the kind of things that really are just, I think the world needs right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I would just tell you like one story, right? In India, especially, there are a lot of businessmen, right? There are more than 100 million, SMBs in India, and 97% of those SMBs are non-technical founders. So they know that they need software. They don't know how to implement it just yet, right? And technology today needs to be accessible for everybody. It cannot be just for developers or people, with a technical bent of mind only to be using softwares, right? So I see my father, who's been running a traditional textile business since last 25 years. He's surrounded by technology, but when it comes to, using technology for his business, he has no clue. He doesn't know, he has an accounting software and an ERP, but that's about it, right? When it comes to managing your data, organizing information, it's still on, pen and paper. We have they still write in books. It's not even digitized. So, and then there are, of course, all these Excel sheets,
I think that's what, when you're saying these things, I think that's one barrier that a lot of entrepreneurs start seeing in starting a business. Their fear of technology, their fear of I don't have the knowledge, or I can't manage the tools, I can't manage the data because I'm not technically inclined. Yeah. So giving them something easy that anybody can really do is removing that barrier. And giving many more people the opportunity to become an entrepreneur and to start their own business and even improve the business that they have and take it from pen and paper.
Absolutely. So it's all about people, process, and technology, right? I mean, these days, to be competitive, it's really about these three. And, I see there are just so many opportunities, right, to allow these non-technical folks to, to build and customize the way they want, right? And software should not dictate how you should work. You should dictate how software should work, right? That's the thinking. And that's how, it's an ambitious plan, but of course we're on the right track, with what we're doing. Yeah.
Well, I know I'm always frustrated. I'm like, you know what? We're humans. We programmed you. Do what I want you to do. It's like, why aren't you doing what I'm asking you to do? We made you. Yeah. Do what we need. So what, you talk about always being an entrepreneur. You talk about what you've done in college for entrepreneurship. Is there one thing that sparked that interest 10 years ago to do this? Is there something that happened?
So this is going back, 10 years. So I just want to, tell one story. So, I was a physics major. So, we were looking at solutions to harness energy from different places where, energy cannot be harvested, right? Energy is all around us, right? So solar, that's how, solar energy came about, right? From the sun. So my first entrepreneurial project was essentially, how can we convert electricity from people walking, down the streets?
Interesting.
There's a lot of mechanical energy that's generated, when you walk. Imagine if we could have a sheet of some sort of piezoelectrics or actuators that essentially harnesses, all that energy when you're walking and, make that, put that into a grid, to provide electricity. It could still, it could mean a lot, because just imagine in campuses, in airports, in universities, there are hundreds of people who are walking across the university.
Malls.
Or across those places.
Shopping malls.
Malls, it's ridiculous. Yeah. So my first project was essentially, how do we harness energy from people who are walking and convert that, into a usable energy for, to light our computers or, light our bulbs, for example. So that, that essentially, the whole experience of, building that, from scratch, from researching, about this problem, coming up with a solution. Technology was really the barrier here because the piezo actuators were not up to the mark that could harness a lot of energy per, square meter. So the ROI did not set, but, the whole process of getting to that point was super interesting, right? That we built something out of nowhere just by observations, that how we could harness energy from people walking, right? That it was just like that idea. So once I had this idea, I was always interested in, the industrial applications of technology and science. How we could bring, like, how can we solve like real life problems, via technology. So when I observed the same thing, during my work, I had no intention to, leave a good paying corporate job, in the US and move countries to, start a startup. It essentially came from observations, only when I was facing those problems, I realized that, and when I started talking to hundreds of people like within my network. So for 1 year in 2017, I was just talking to people. Hey, do you face this problem? Hey, do you face this problem? And 95% of them said yes. Yes, we do face problems. Excel sheets have ruined our lives. We spent countless hours on Excel sheets, on spreadsheets to manage our work. With that, with a lot of, with that idea, that validation, it was just amazing that, it's amazing that, on the day of my appraisal, I put a resignation to quit my job. And
thank you for the review. It's been nice. I'm out of here.
Exactly how it happened. So I gave them a notice that I'll be out, in a couple of months. I wanted to start something of my own, and they were surprised. Like my, the peers that I was working with, my bosses were surprised that I was making such a decision, because not many people my age, take such decisions, move back to their country to start something. But I was just super confident, and honestly, it was really the passion that drove me into taking this decision. Today, I have no regrets that I took it.
That's really good. That's the passion, I think, is what drives us. That's when you have that you need to have that passion in order to keep going. And the passion, honestly, I've seen it in myself to where my passion, there are times I'm more passionate than others. So it does go up and down, but as long as you maintain it, you can keep moving forward. So
absolutely.
As we're getting close to the end of our time, I do want to ask you one last question. If there was one piece of advice or one tool or one resource that you would suggest for somebody who's considering becoming an entrepreneur or starting their own business, is there something that you would say, yes, this is what you need to read, this is what you need to look up, or this is what you need to do?
Absolutely. So there are a couple of books that really influenced me, over the years. One is 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. You can, start from zero and take that first step, because I think 0 to 1 is the most important for any journey, right? I think it's the hardest. It comes with its own set of struggles, from starting from scratch. And one thing that I personally advise, entrepreneurs, or even like people like entrepreneurs who are in the making, that don't give up on your ideas. If you don't do it, somebody else will. You need to have patience, you need to have determination, and you need to have conviction that you will be able to. And if you work hard and be honest to yourself while you're in the process, the universe will start helping you, right? It's a secret that really comes about. What you give, to the universe will give it back to you. Yeah. So if you're very honest in your approach, in your efforts towards solving a real problem, there will be people who will come about and they will just help you, and they will take you, from that 0 to 1. So don't be afraid to start, despite of all the adversities, just, follow your dreams, right? I mean, it may sound cliche, but I've lived this, right? I've lived this experience from 0 to 1. It has not been easy, right? It was full of ups and downs, but you need to just keep your head cool, be patient, and just keep moving.
Thank you. So if people want to find out more about you and find get in contact with you or your company, how will they do that?
If you are interested in using StackBuy, go to stackbuy.com. And if you're looking to get in touch with me, I'm on LinkedIn. You just type my name, Rachit Khator, and just send me a connection request. I will accept it and mention about this podcast, and I will reply sooner.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Rachit. I appreciate it. It's been great talking with you.
No, thanks a lot, Anthony.
And good luck.
Thanks for inviting me over.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Biker PM. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you think. And remember, if you're an entrepreneur that wants to be with like-minded individuals and improving their project management skills, join the Biker PM Facebook group. Until next time.